Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to TJK Shares, TJK channel. This is the place where we bring you ordinary people doing extraordinary things with one purpose: to learn, relearn, and unlearn. We promised you these will be people you don't meet every day. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I am excited have Karen, my friend, coming to the channel. Karen is the founder and chair of the board of Network of Engaged International Donors. Not just international donors, the ones who are engaged. She founded this, she chairs the board. She's here at Harvard University with me in a program I've told you about, Advanced Leadership Initiative. Karen, I must say before you introduce yourself and say a little bit, when I saw that you are coming to this program, it was my biggest highlight, and I was so pumped that we are going to share 1 year together. And the year is coming to an end, but it's been a great ride. Thank you for accepting to do this with me. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome.
Thank you, Jackson. First, I have to say, when I found out you were going to be in this program, I screamed. I went, oh my God, Jackson, how could this happen? And I was just ecstatic. And it's been wonderful to learn along with you, to try new ideas out with you, and to work with our whole cohort to change the world.
That's right. Yeah.
To change the world. So I grew up in the Midwestern part of the United States in a small town, very ordinary, middle class, fairly conservative family. I was encouraged to come out to the Boston area to go to college, which I did. Actually, my grandmother told me exactly where to apply to college, and I applied to the 3 places she told me. Very obedient, and I got in. Now, my grandmother was married to a naval captain. When you ask about people who influenced me, and he had served in World War II and afterwards all over the world, including in the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean. He served in China for a couple of years, training the Navy there before it became communist China. And so he and my grandmother, they were part of the family lore that you take responsibility.
Yes.
To people beyond your own family. In fact, you look to the world, yes, and you take responsibility for making the world a safer place. Now, today, my politics might not be the same as my grandfather's, yes, were, but I think I inherited that sense of taking responsibility for other people. Yes. And my own style of patriotism is to make the world a better place, but also to make the U.S. a better place and a more just actor on the world stage.
Very good. Grandma influenced you, and
very much.
Many of our listeners are in Uganda. They are young people. In fact, I started this channel because they kept asking me, you go speaking all over the world. We can't get all your speeches. How can we get to learn and get the wisdom that you get out there and find? So grandmothers of Nyaka, see, grandmothers in the United States were influencing their grandchildren way back.
And my grandmother was very critical of me most of the time because she held very high standards, and I never felt I could meet them. But in the end, you know, I would look back and I think, thank God for my grandmother.
Wow.
To set high expectations for me, and really to be a surrogate mother to me in a lot of ways. My mother was not able to take care of me and my brother, and so my grandmother played that role to a great extent.
Yes. So, full names: Karen Keating Ansara. You finished college. You met your husband. Tell us a little bit about that time and how you started your family and settled in Boston.
Sure.
Before we go to the Ansara Family Fund and the work you've done since then that has touched so many around the world.
Oh, thank you, Jackson. Between my junior and senior year of college, I took a break. Today they call it a gap year.
Gap year.
I was a political science major, and I wanted to learn about global and local politics. And so I worked for a citizen action organization.
Mm.
I was only there for 1 year, and they knew that because I was going to go back and finish my senior year. But I got the job as the secretary to the executive director. This executive director, his name was Michael Ansara. And during the year I was there, he very secretly answered the phone when his brother Jim was on it, and then turned to me and said, "Oh, by the way, my brother wants to take you to lunch tomorrow." Now, the brother had never asked to take me to lunch. This was totally set up by my boss.
Yes.
But of course I said yes, and that was it. Several weeks later, that was it. Jim was a very unusual person. He was also going to college, but he wasn't made out for the classroom. Yes. He's the kind of person who works with his hands and never stops. And he decided to learn construction. So he decided to do that in a neighborhood of Boston, and he learned, and within a few years, he started his own very small construction company, but was lucky enough to get some pivotal jobs. So that's how things began with us. We went quite a long time. I went to graduate school. His business grew. After 20 years of him running his business, he sold it to his employees. That gave us the funds for philanthropy. But in between, we adopted 4 children.
Yes, you adopted 4 children. So before we speak about the children, you did something unusual. Many people think of business owners. They will run the business, they make it profitable, they want to sell it at the highest amount of money they can, and walk away and invest the cash and continue to enjoy the cash. Why did you and Jim decide to make this humanly impossible?
We have very pro-worker values. Yes. Jim actually unionized his own construction company. I don't know anyone else who's done that, but because he felt,
yes,
he felt his employees would get better paid and they'd have better benefits. He also knew he'd get better workers.
That's true.
And so it was really logical when he felt that 20 years was long enough for him in leadership, that he wanted to elevate the workers, the team, and sell the company to them. So, and that made him proud to know that they were going to benefit from the company and be in control for its future.
Wow, wonderful. And I've met Jim, an amazing man. For those of you from Uganda, Jim didn't stop there. He's continued to do something else we'll talk about later. And that work extends to Mbarara University. Mbarara University of Science and Technology. Jim Ansara has his tentacles right there. Work that I have gone and seen myself at Mbarara University. But what an amazing man. Then he went on to work with Paul Farmer and establishing and building all these hospitals around the world. I'll have to do my own interview with Jim separately. Now that we have Mrs., we are going to go back and talk about your 4 children. How did that go? And what were the struggles and the happy moments you can share with
thank you.
Parents, older parents, or those who have also adopted or considering to adopt? This is a channel for everybody.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. So after Jim and I had been married for 12 years, I think, we were trying to conceive a child. We were having difficulty. And rather than going down a long medical route, I had previously shared with Jim that I had always wanted to adopt children. Ever since I was a teenager, I think I talked about that. And so that particular year, 1992, was right after the Berlin Wall had fallen that divided the Soviet bloc from Western Europe.
Yes.
And Jim's mother was Russian. And so we thought, maybe we should try to adopt a child from Russia, because Russia was just opening up. That didn't work out for us for a number of reasons on the Russian side. But we were then blessed by our adoption agency with a 6-week-old, 6-pound, tiny boy born in Boston. He was premature and remarkable. Like, his hands were like the size of a fork.
Tiny, yes.
So tiny. He was remarkable. The next year, Jim and I were invited by some close friends to go on a trip of a lifetime to Peru. One of the friends was Peruvian, and we left little baby Michael with his little baby cousin, who was adopted from Russia. It had worked out for Michael and Sarah. And we went to Peru, fell in love with the country, with the people. And I think, Jackson, as you had heard me tell, when I was in the Andes, a magical place with a lot of indigenous people, 2 different women came up to me at different times and tried to hand me their children, to say, take him, take her.
Give them an opportunity.
Give them an opportunity. I can't, they didn't say it in words. They said it with their eyes. I'm desperate. I can't care for this child. Of course, I couldn't take their children, but I mean, I was really, I broke down. I was just so moved. I already had an adopted child. So I was already, empathetic towards women who have to give up their children. So Jim and I went back to the United States, and I felt that was a sign that we should adopt a child from Latin America.
Yes.
So we returned, not to Peru, but to Ecuador, which is right next to Peru and has a very similar culture.
Yes.
And 6 months later, we adopted a beautiful 6-month-old baby girl with black curly hair and huge black eyes.
Yeah.
Then a couple years went by, and we thought, should we try this again?
Mm-hmm.
And we went to our adoption agency, who said, we have twins, beautiful 14-month-old twins who need a family. Would you consider them? And to make a long story short, we did. We went back, we adopted them. Now, we then had a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and 2 22-month-olds. Because by the time they came to us, they were 22 months. And I have to say, it was beautiful, and it was exhausting, and it was crazy making. And not everybody bonded well.
Of course.
When you are creating a family, not from the very, very, very beginning, not everybody is happy to have a newcomer. And honestly, those dynamics continue to this day. My children are in their 20s, 27, 29, and 31. And, 2 have bonded here. Of course, the twins have bonded, but it's not perfect. Families are not perfect, even when they're desperately wanted. You have to be forgiving, accept each other, see each other's strengths, and remember the bond, right? The family is the most important unit in society.
That's true. They are created by God in a large nature of his image, but created independently. My mother used to tell me, look at your hands. The veins, and even for twins who are identical, lines are different in each hand.
That's right.
Why they do fingerprints.
Yeah.
So now you have 4 children. You are a mother. You are married to this man running a construction company. Did the family jump in and help with the kids? Did neighbors? I wish I had seen
Jackson.
I met you when the kids were a little bit grown.
Jackson, well, first of all, Yeah,
balancing.
these four children were a gift from God. I mean, absolutely. But Jim did have a lot of responsibilities. He would leave at 5 a.m. He would come home at 8 o'clock at night. So really, at the beginning, I was focusing completely on the children. But the key reason why he decided to sell his company was to spend time with his children.
What a man.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, because those years go by so quickly, and they needed him. These are children who had lost their parents once. They needed two parents again. So that's the choice he made. And then for about 7 years, he, focused on the family, and he, did some things he loved until he had another kind of life-changing opportunity.
So that when he sold the company, he started Ansara Family Fund.
Yes.
Housed within Boston Foundation. And then Jim, after he spent time with the kids and they have grown a little bit, you together started Build Health International. So you have Ansara Family. You are involved in Build Health International, Women Moving Millions, being a board member, network of engaged international donors, and now you are at Harvard. Karen, how do you do it? How do you balance all of this? Do you ever have spare time for yourself?
I don't want spare time.
Okay.
Why would I want spare time when there's so much that needs to be done in the world? Now, I have to admit, I have a wonderful support system. Like if I didn't have money, it would be harder, but I have a support system. But yeah, I don't know if you're asking me, why did I come to Harvard after all of this?
Let's start with, why did you feel like you needed to start an Ansara Family Fund?
Oh,
why a fund?
Because we wanted to give back in thanks to God for these four amazing, precious children. And because I always remember the children I left behind that I couldn't adopt, and the mothers I left behind. Not an easy choice to give up a child. So we decided, what can we do? Can we fund a lot of orphanages? And we started that way. But then we thought, we can't fund all the orphanages in the world. Can we get to the root of the problem? Well, there's many roots of the problem. There's extreme poverty. There's women's lack of agency and voice, healthcare, domestic violence, lack of education. There's many, many problems that lead desperate parents to surrender their children. And we've tried to tackle them originally, one by one, not in a grandiose way in certain areas. We started off in Latin America, and then we had an opportunity to work in Haiti, and we've shifted a lot of our focus there. But we know we can only focus in, one or two or three places in the world.
That's true. And so when somebody's deciding to either start a foundation or create a fund within a community foundation like Boston, why would you advise somebody who is at a crossroad right now trying to decide which one to do?
Oh, it's an excellent question. It depends in part on how many resources they have. It depends on whether they want to hire staff or not. If you want to keep it simple, I suggest creating what's called a donor-advised fund, which is held at places like Fidelity Charitable, Schwab, another investment firm, or community foundations around the world. And those are just like a little bank account. You give the institution your money and you can never get it back. But they track your spending of it. You can ask them to send grants to NIACA or other organizations on your behalf.
Yes.
And it's a very simple way of organizing your philanthropy.
So if you are a person who is at a crossroad, definitely get in touch with network of engaged international donors, become a member, and they can actually advise you on how to go about this. But
Absolutely.
avoid administrative and write this, keep this, don't advise the fund, DAF, or you can get a community foundation within your area, or there are even other members that we need who can be your pass-through for those who are down in international.
Yes.
Build Health International, which Jim runs and continue to run with volunteers. That's what is amazing about this work. I've built so many hospitals all over the world, but one big one, and the one he talked about that really threw me off my feet, is the Haiti project. You were involved from the beginning to the end. Just shed a little bit light on that, and then we pay respect to Paul Farmer, also who worked with him for so many years.
Thank you, Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah. In 2009, Paul Farmer invited Jim to come to Haiti with a couple of other businessmen to think about how they could bring jobs to Haiti, to the section of Haiti where Partners in Health, Paul Farmer's organization, worked. And Jim went. Now, Jim had traveled all over the world by this point. He was so shocked by the poverty he saw. He told me when he came back, I've just never experienced anything like this. I want to do what Paul Farmer does. Originally, Jim thought he wanted to go back to school and become a nurse. He wanted to go to nursing school because nobody in Haiti, he said, needs construction skills like I have. What they need are people at the bedside saving lives. So he was on that path, but Paul and others at Partners in Health offered him a different opportunity, which was to build a small community hospital for them. And that would be in partnership with an African-American doctor that had worked in Haiti for a long time and with Partners in Health, whose name was David Walton. So Jim said yes, and the two of them oversaw the design of this building, and it was going to be a 100-bed building, and they were working at Jim's former construction company on January 12th of 2010, looking at the blueprints when the earthquake happened in Haiti.
Yes.
And David was on a private plane 2 days later. Jim was on another private plane 3 days later because David had called him by satellite phone and said, "We need you here. There's no electricity in the surgical tents. The surgeons need to see what they're doing." Yes. So Jim went down. He stayed for 3 months, working alongside the doctors, doing relief work. And then at the end of that time, the government of Haiti and Partners in Health negotiated to make this 100-bed hospital a 320-bed national teaching hospital on a rice paddy in central Haiti. And Jim and David agreed to that challenge, and then they went at it for the next 3.5 years.
What a journey. For those of you, ladies and gentlemen, who don't know Dr. Paul Farmer, I don't think anybody doesn't know him. Tracy Kinder wrote a book, Mountains Beyond Mountains. Paul Farmer wrote so many other books, but for me, I was introduced to Paul Farmer through that book. And then Tracy Kinder followed up with another book, Strength in What Remains, which tells the story of my friend and classmate from Columbia University days, Dale. And recently, Dale has completed another 226-bed women hospital in Kigutu, Burundi. Paul Farmer went on to build so many hospitals in Haiti, in Rwanda, in all over the world. So read about it, follow him. He passed away a few years ago. May his soul rest in peace. Work, live here forever. Jim and Build Health International have continued during COVID. Talk about what they did during COVID and how I got an opportunity to go witness it at Mbarara University.
Well, so after Jim built the hospital in in Haiti, he realized that he had learned some skills about how to build in a low resource environment, right? Where you don't have Home Depot next door.
That's true.
And you don't have trained tradespeople.
Okay. Yes.
So he thought, maybe I should do this elsewhere. So he set up a nonprofit, an international NGO called, as you said, Build Health International. And first he partnered with Partners in Health, the organization, which is in 10 countries. And so he's done work for Partners in Health as a client in those countries. But again, in many of those countries, they don't have enough trained people in construction. And so they train them on the job. One wonderful project I'm just so proud of is a new Center for Maternal Excellence in Sierra Leone, which had the worst maternal mortality figures in the world. Okay. But Partners in Health, after Ebola, decided that they needed to go into Sierra Leone. So BHI is now working that project. What's so amazing, Jackson,
Yes, tell us, please.
is that more than 50% of the construction workers are women. And you can go on the website and you can see them in their work clothes and their hard hats, and they're so proud because having this job changes their status in their families, in their communities, in the whole society. So
Sure.
that's part of the mission of this organization. It's social construction, not just physical construction.
Yes, ma'am. And the BHI continues to grow. While it is growing, you founded a network. It was called New England International Donors at one point.
It was.
You invited me and Tori, and I bought my book, A School for My Village, and met who I think at the time was like 24 members. And you've grown this network, and now it is called Network of Engaged International Donors. It's a membership organization. Please tell our listeners why you started it, what you would like it to accomplish, and your dream for its future.
Well, I started it in 2008 when I heard the figure that only 2% of all the donations that Americans give to charity, only 2% went to solve global problems.
Yes.
That figure is now 6%. But our objective was to inspire Americans to recognize their brotherhood and sisterhood with women and men around the globe, and to invest in communities abroad to help them solve their own problems. And, you know, in the United States, we can tend to be very myopic, short-sighted. We can tend to be focused on ourselves, think we're the center of the universe. We know it all, we have it all, we do it all. But that's not true. You know, if you've been around the world, you realize the incredible power and talent and drive of so many leaders like you, Jackson. And, you know, I realized that in an incredibly moving way going to the Opportunity Collaboration where I met you at that conference in Mexico on the ocean side when you and I were in a little boat.
Yes.
And my first encounter with you, and Jim was with me at that time, was you asked, so what do you do? And, you know, we said we invest in Haiti. And you said, well, why aren't you supporting children in Uganda? And we said, well, because we're focused on Haiti. You said, that doesn't matter. Why aren't you supporting children in Uganda? You know, it was so vintage Jackson. But in that setting, you know, I was so inspired by leaders around the world that I believe Americans should support. Not dictate to, not tell what to do, but actually put their trust in, invest their money in, and watch with wide eyes the magic that happens.
Yep. And Karen, when you bring that number, I quickly looked at USA report 2022. The number of donations that were given in 2022, according to USA report, is 499 billion.
Yep.
And
yes,
6% of that is what went to international. And for those of you international people, or those of you who are listening to us from USA, when a dollar goes in a developing country, it stretches so big.
Yes.
So fast. And this is a global village that we all owe to care, whether the kid is in Nicaragua, or the woman, or the dog and donkeys that need to be rescued while wars are going in Israel and Gaza right now. I mean, see how all these are affecting us. Karen and I was in New York over the weekend, and I can't forget what the managing director for New York Marathon said. He said, this weekend brought love in the city. We are surrounded with all doom and doom every day. We read the news. It is all covering things that are hurting our soul and affecting our mental health. Sunday was love, cheering, wheelchair racing, people enjoying and running for charities. Over the years, New York Marathon has raised $480 million for charitable organizations around the world, including NYAC. So yes, need is very so much needed. Your staff are incredible. I had an opportunity to speak at the Gara area in the spring. What a blessing. The people we know here are amazing. It continues to grow. What does the future look like? Apart from what USAID also did at UN Week, they say they want to increase 25% of their giving to locally led organizations. So yes, USAID to become members of NEED too.
Well, we're beating the drum along with USAID. I think organizations like ours started this refrain that we need to have more aid dollars, the dollars that come from governments, as well as philanthropic dollars that come from individuals and foundations and corporations, be focused on local grassroots leaders, not on the huge international humanitarian organizations, although there's a very important role for them to play, particularly when there's a disaster. They can also play an important role in advocating with international governance bodies about policies that affect people all over the world. So we, as you alluded, we started off as New England International Donors. New England is a section of the United States on the Atlantic coast with 5 or 6 states in it. But we always wanted to expand across the United States, but we didn't know how to do it because most of our programs were in person. COVID happened. Everyone went on Zoom. We immediately put our programming on Zoom and started attracting members from California, New York, Washington, D.C., 22 states across the country. So most of the community we build and the education we do is via Zoom, but we also want to create clusters of members in some metropolitan areas, and that's what we're focused on now. We now have 350 member participants in our programs. We want to get to 500 in 3 years. Some of those members are part of foundations. Some are individual philanthropists. So we definitely want to expand because we want to expand our role and we want to create a movement of international generosity and philanthropy in the world. And you need numbers, you need masses to change norms, right? And change the way people think and the way people act.
Very, very good. So now would be a good time to appeal to donors, individuals, and foundations to come and become members. Where do they go to sign up?
We have a website that you can find online, Network of Engaged International Donors, or NEID. We pronounce it NEED, right? Because we're responding to a need in society. And all the information is there about how to become a member. Some of our programming, you don't have to be a member, right? You can be an NGO leader or community leader, and you can join our calls because we're all in this together, right? We all need to be partners in this work together.
Wonderful.
And just as a footnote, Jackson, you were our keynote speaker at our fundraising gala this spring. And I was so thrilled and honored to recommend you for that role. You were amazing. We had absolutely incredible response to your honest, passionate comments.
Thank you. And anytime you need me to come speak or go on a recruitment or bring more
thank you.
Until Kaguri Fund also becomes one of the members that funds in the future, we will continue to support as much as we can.
Wonderful. We want you when you're on that book tour. We want to highlight you for your legacy book.
We'll be here with the legacy book and weaving them. So now we are together in a cohort of amazing people from all over the world. Talk about your experience in our Advanced Leadership Initiative. Mike would love this plug because we want as many people to come. What you are working on as your project.
Well, this has been a remarkable experience, in part because of the resources and the teaching gifts that Harvard staff offer us from all over the university, very tailored to our own interests. But also, as you said, it's because of the cohort. It's the 45 people who are going on this journey together because they have a sense of what they're called to do at this point in their life. They're in what's called a third chapter or a later stage of life. They might have left a prior career or they're deepening their career, but they've got another push in them, right? They've got another 10 to 20 years. And, why go play golf, right? Why lay out at a pool? They want to do something that's going to benefit society. So I've been so inspired by many of our cohort members who are from, Colombia and Chile and Germany, Brazil, all over the place.
And
so
South Africa.
Yes, South Africa.
Britain.
Absolutely.
We have.
And Uganda. And Uganda.
So what project are you working on? Each of us are to a project. We were admitted because they want us to work on a social impact, something for the world.
Absolutely. What I've decided to do is what I love to do, which is to talk to people who are giving of themselves and giving of their resources to help change a community or solve a problem overseas. So I am interviewing them. I'm creating profiles about their lives. Mm-hmm. How did they, come to develop their own values? How do those values play out in the philanthropic activity they're doing in the world? How does that activity bring meaning to their own lives? How do they think about ethics and power relationships and approaches to doing philanthropy? And then I want to weave these profiles into a guidebook for other people considering doing international philanthropy as a way to inspire them and say, if Mary Jo started a school in Tanzania, well, maybe I can too. Or, if Albert supported a hospital in Guinea, maybe I can too, and I can go there and it'll change my life. Right. It'll change my life.
I can't wait to see the guidebook and to go through some of the people you will interview. Again, if there's anything I can do to help, please do let me know.
Thank you,
I know that we have so much we could talk about. I want to ask you, we all get to a point where we will expire from this world.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to be remembered?
Jackson, about 30 years ago, I went to seminary, to divinity school. I did not go in the professional pastoral direction, but I had this amazing opportunity to think a lot about ethics and learn about social change leaders and what I believe is God's vision for bringing the kingdom to earth. And the leader, I believe, that's inspired me the most is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he had a vision for building God's beloved community on earth. It would be a community of love and justice.
Yes.
You can't have one without the other. And I articulated my life vision at that point 30 years ago, which was to inspire and equip others to build the beloved community. So on my tombstone, should I have one? I think I'd like it to say this was a daughter of God building the beloved community, something like that.
Wow, you just gave us what to put on there. Thank you for sharing that, Karen. I want to end by asking you if you were to give advice to your younger self at 18 years of age,
Ooh.
what advice would you have given yourself? That's a reaction I get from every guest I ask that question.
Always believe every person can change, but they need your forgiveness to do it. If every person can change, every family can change, every neighborhood could change, every community can change, every country can change. But learning forgiveness is a skill and a practice, and it requires commitment. But when you do it, you free yourself up and you can see such a greater vision for your family, your community, the world. So I would say work on forgiveness.
Thank you. I won't add anything beyond that. We thank you for coming here, for sharing your wisdom. May we continue to grow. May we continue to forgive each other.
Thank you, Jackson. What a privilege. What a privilege to know you and to be on this program.